Good evening, everybody. For those of you who are avid shares viewers, I do apologise if you saw a talk a couple of weeks ago. We're probably going to cover quite a few of the same topics, so please do bear with us. For those of you who don't know so much about NEX Exchange, we are a London-based stock exchange. We have exactly the same regulatory status as both the London Stock Exchange and AIM. We operate two markets, a main board, which is equivalent to the LSE main board, and a growth market, which is our core focus and equivalent to AIM. We have 85 companies on the market at present. These are ranging from £500,000 tech companies all the way up to Arsenal Football Club, valued around 1.6 billion. Now, since our last talk in Edinburgh, they've actually shot up around 30%. We also have some very well-known companies in the food and beverages sector. We have the likes of Adnams, Thwaites, Shepherd Neame, and a really successful company that joined us. They're a vineyard down in Kent called Chapel Down. They've performed particularly well over the last couple of years. However, with all of it, where we see the real challenge is actually at the smaller end of the market. Banks, they seem very happy to lend money to mid-sized to large corporates, lending 15 to 20 million. But they don't seem so keen to lend to the smaller companies, raising anywhere from, say, £500,000 to £5 million. In addition to that, we've got a VC sector and a private equity sector, which, whilst they are pretty active, in many cases they actually want to take a lot of control within the company. Much of the time, this isn't particularly appropriate for what the entrepreneur wants or the company wants. So we think there's a real opportunity at the smaller end of the market. However, stock exchanges have been perceived to be pretty expensive ways of raising capital. With other exchanges in the UK, you're typically it's going to cost you somewhere between £350,000 and £500,000 in listing fees. So this is quite a significant barrier to entry for small companies, which at NEX Exchange, our goal is to remove this barrier through significantly bringing down the cost to the market. Typically, companies joining the market is going to cost somewhere between 100 and 150,000, and we're working hard to try and reduce this further. But at the same time, we've got to ensure that the credibility of the market and the companies coming on board are of a certain level to give you comfort as investors. Once a company's on the market, they've got access to a wide range of investors, from retail and professional investors such as yourselves, all the way up to family offices and venture capital and small cap institutions. We work with a lot of the small caps institutions like Living Bridge, Miton and Octopus, to name a few. Whilst raising capital is an important factor for many companies, in many cases there are additional benefits which are also pretty attractive to the company. In the case of Shepherd Neame, for example, they joined the market for liquidity. They're a great example. They had a long family history of shareholders, many of whom were pulling in many different directions. Some wanted to buy, some wanted to sell, and this was a massive headache for the management. So essentially the management bought them to NEX Exchange, bought the company to NEX Exchange, and this took the hassle out of it for them. They had a live valuation for the company. The investors could then go and choose whether they wanted to go and buy more shares or whether they wanted to sell. And essentially this gave the management time to focus on actually building the company. Other reasons companies are joining the market are such as visibility and credibility. All our company's data are distributed worldwide through Bloomberg, Thomson Reuters, Fidessa, to name a few of the data vendors. In addition, as an exchange, we're very engaged with the companies that join our market. So, for example, when companies are looking to raise further rounds of funding, we'll typically, on a regular basis, we actually host investor events. So we'll bring in high net worths, small caps, small cap institutions, corporate brokers. And this is a really informal way that the company can actually present their case to the small cap community. And it's just really a bit of a value add for the company. Once the company is quoted on the market, it's actually also a lot easier to then go and raise further funds as well. Once they've demonstrated to the market that they have the appropriate corporate governance, they've got some share price history behind them. The investors are much more inclined to then come back for later rounds, and it also gives the institutions a bit more comfort moving forward. From an investor and market perspective, we don't say whether we think something is a good investment or a bad investment when it joins the market. That's really your job. What's important as an exchange is that we give you the tools to make an informed decision. So we vet all the companies coming on the market, whether that's the management, the company history, really to ensure that the company and the management are transparent at all times. That way you can actually go and make an informed decision on whether something's a good or bad investment. Companies on our market, we've got high growth companies across the UK and overseas. We've got, we cover some of the most exciting sectors at the moment. I mentioned food and beverage, which we're very active in, but we've also got companies in the fintech space, for example. So very topical at the moment is the like of blockchain technology and Bitcoin, where we have representation through companies like Coincilium and Kryptonite, who are definitely worth checking out on our website. Investors in our companies, not only are there some really interesting companies on NEX Exchange, you also get incredible benefits. So any investment in our companies, you will receive capital gains tax relief if you hold for 3 years, inheritance tax relief if you hold for 2 years. In addition, companies joining the market also receive EIS and SEIS relief. So these are absolutely fantastic benefits that they significantly de-risk your investment. The growth market itself is a quote-driven market. So that means as investors, you've always got a price to buy and sell your shares during market hours. You can access any of our companies through one of 47 broker members. At present, we're not online with all of the broker members. This is something that we're working pretty hard on, but there are a handful out there, the likes of the Share Centre, Smart Invest, to name a couple, but we've got representations through the likes of Hargreaves Lansdown and some of the bigger names as well. So really just to wrap all of that up, for companies that are looking to join, well, they're looking to go and raise additional finance to help their companies grow. Come and have a chat with us. It doesn't cost anything to have a chat. In many cases, if you're not ready for the market yet, it might be the case that you might be ready in a year or two. But even if the market isn't right for you, we can actually introduce you to other intermediaries that can help your current circumstances. From an investor point of view, I recommend taking a look at our website. We've got some fantastic companies on the market at the moment, some great investor benefits. You can see all their financials, the management teams, and everything's there for you to find opportunity and make an informed investment decision. So thank you very much all, and I welcome any questions.
Do you have any questions for Max, please? I've got an important one. Wrappers, ISAs, SIPs, can you put NEX listed companies in your tax wrapper?
You can indeed, yes. So not through all of the brokers at the moment. This is something that we're working on. But what was Barclays, now Smart Invest, they're very happy to do so. It might take a couple of calls around, or you can contact the exchange directly, but we'd be able to find that for you.
Okay, lovely. Question at the front here, please, Peter.
Okay. Is that,
Yeah.
Sorry. You assist companies in raising money. I noticed that there's a leaflet here from Primary Bid, and I have actually used them not to raise money, but as an investor. What are the advantages that you have over Primary Bid? Or do they have advantages over you? I don't know.
Primary Bid we're actually talking to the Primary Bid guys at the moment. They're really helpful in secondary raises. So when companies want to go and raise further funds after being on a market, Primary Bid's great because it gives the existing investors a chance to reinvest in the market rather than the institutions having the first go. So everybody comes in as at the same level. So we're not really in competition with Primary Bid. We're actually going to use them as a tool to help our companies raise further funds.
Any further questions, please? Gentleman here, please.
I wondered if you'd say a little bit about how you're regulated.
Sure.
Are you more of a Wild West than AIM or less at the moment? What are you doing to...
Got to be careful here. We are, from a regulatory point of view, we are both regulated by the FCA. So we both AIM and ourselves, we have our in-house regulation team who make decisions on the market and the companies on the market. It's a difficult one. You know, what's really important to us is that we keep the integrity of the market. You know, we don't want companies on there that, you know, for whatever reason, the management have a bad history, and therefore we're you know, leading investors down a path. Or as our job as an exchange is to make sure that, you know, the company's in the best place possible in order to give returns to the investors. But we can't say whether something's a good or a bad investment. No, I think on AIM, if you look at some of the say oil and gas companies, you know, the AIM regulation can't know whether there's oil in the ground, but they can ensure that the company's got the expertise there to give it the best chance.
On that, if I may ask, Max, in terms of, we're familiar with kind of the RNS system and the frequency of reporting for an AIM company. Is that the same for NEX companies?
Yeah, exactly the same. So you know, this is important for investors. You need to know exactly what your companies are doing, and you know, we really encourage companies to be as open as possible, because at the end of the day, news is good, and far too many companies go through their lives on the exchange not putting out enough news. But this is something that we do certainly encourage, and yeah, especially with RNS.
Okay. Any further questions?
Thanks. And is there a requirement for admission document and Nomad? Is it similar to AIM in that way?
Yeah, similar. So we have NEX Exchange corporate advisors, so not quite as catchy. And in actual fact, many of the Nomads are also NEX Exchange corporate advisors, and more are becoming so. Where we can really start to reduce the cost of joining the market is that we also have corporate advisors which aren't Nomads. So they're typically, you know, their focus might be getting the company actually onto the exchange. They're not going to offer all the bells and whistles with it of brokers and equity research, because for early stage companies it's not always appropriate. But their focus is really getting the company on the market. So they will have to submit a growth market admission document to our regulation team, just the same as with AIM.
Any further questions, please? Can you just give us, just before we wrap up then, some of the most traded companies on the exchange, just some names to look out for, the most popular or the ones by volume, however you want to address it?
Sure. Popular ones at the moment, I mean, Lenegas is always a popular man, and many people follow his companies. So the likes of Doremus, that's very popular on the exchange at the moment. Chapel Down, who, as I mentioned, they are a vineyard based down in Kent. They've done particularly well on the market. But look, if you've got any questions about any of the companies, feel free to get in touch with the exchange as well. We're very open and happy to have these discussions.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much indeed, Max.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.